Welcome back to Business and Life Stories, sponsored by Capital Finders. Our guest this week is not our typical guest, and I'm very excited about that. You know, most of our guests have been people who are in their second, third, some of them their sixth or seventh company. Mr. Desmond Dixon is with us today. He's a multi-million-dollar sales guy. And what's so unique about Desmond is he accomplished this before he even got to the age where most of us are still trying to figure out what the heck we want to be when we grow up. So somehow he hit his stride. We'll talk about that. He also does a great podcast called Campfire, Capitalism, which I highly recommend. So welcome, Desmond.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mike.
So man, you started life as a chemical engineer. And of course, I started as a materials and metallurgical engineer. So how did you make the transition to learning how to speak to the rest of the human race? And not only that, but becoming a salesperson, and a good one. This is not typically an engineering trait.
Oh, I had many awkward conversations to build that sales muscle. But it really started when I was in college. I was doing stuff with like NASA and Department of Defense, like internships and research projects. And I had this moment after one internship one summer. I was like, man, I don't think I want to be in a lab the rest of my life. Junior year. So I was like, so some buddies were like, hey man, you want to come knock doors with us in Texas next summer? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, I know I don't want to do this. Let me explore different things. And during that time, I was doing, the typical training and onboarding. I'm about to go knock doors in Dallas, Texas in 100-degree weather. And when I say I failed miserably, Mike, I failed miserably. I probably knocked on over 1,000 doors and got 1,000 doors slammed in my face. And I got fired in the middle of the summer because I sucked that bad. And all I could think about the rest of that summer, I was down and out. I made no money. I was stranded because they kicked me out of the corporate housing and I had to stay with my uncle that I'd never met before in Texas. And I wanted it even more because I was so fascinated with how this manager was connecting deeply with strangers and having them sign that $7,000 contracts, right? Just met the dude on the street, literally. And I was like, I'm so fascinated with like how human beings connected. And so I dedicated the rest of my pretty much my current life to sales. And I graduated with my chemical engineering degree and I applied for sales jobs every single day until I got one. I didn't apply for not one engineering job. Did an interview for one, didn't even consider it. And I ended up getting a break. I responded back to this recruiter, this dude for the company. I was like, hey man, like I want this job because you guys do X, Y, Z, and I know this is what I want to do. And he let me in, like off of the the reply. So yeah, I started in that, and then a dude really what helped me like foster was the difference between having conversations based upon what my agenda is in the conversation of like trying to get my commission check to like, hey, how can I solve this person's problem? So the engineering side actually helped me be a better salesperson because then I could critically think and ask questions and try to solve problems and get creative in my solutions. Because when I did multiple millions in sales in corporate, I did it with probably the 8, like we were the number 8 or 9 or 10 guy in the city in the region. Like we were small, right? So we didn't have the competitive advantage. So I had to find creative ways to generate revenue, which was problem solving. So really the engineering side helped me out a lot. And when I got literally obsessed with how can I serve this person and get them the desired outcome, that's when things went to the moon, man. Like it just compounded like money. So that's a little bit about my transition, man. So
how did you fall in love with this concept? I mean, going from knocking on doors and deciding that's you wanted to be successful at sales. Then did you start second guessing yourself? Did you have a lot of doubts? I'm guessing this wasn't all smooth sailing all the way along.
Yeah. To be quite frank, Mike, like I hit a, not to get Debbie Downer, but like I hit a valley in college after that of like, I knew I didn't want to do engineering. I knew so much that I didn't want to do engineering, even though I was making so much money during internships. I'm really good at math and science. and I failed at sales, and I was so unhappy with that path that I was on that I kind of got depressed, man. So what got me out of that depression, that mental health crisis that I was going through in my life, my 4th and 5th year, was I want to be a sales guy. I was willing to do anything. I took a $30,000 pay cut, Mike, to to pretty much be a trainee, and I drove across the country with, I also had the identity theft at the time, so I couldn't even get an apartment. So I had to live off in people's homes off Craigslist, right? In one of the most expensive cities in America. And I was like, yo, I got nothing to lose. Worst come to worst, I'll just go be an engineer. That's what I kept telling myself. I was like, if I fail again, oh well, at least I have a degree in chemical engineering and I have contacts. I could just go work in a lab the rest of my life. So I felt like I was playing with house money, and I really doubled down on like learning. So like Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, really helped my mental modeling of like, okay, what really matters is why you're in business and why you want to connect with someone, and then leading to the how and the what. And then the greatest salesman in the world, I think his name is OG Mandino or something like that, Mardino. That book is amazing. Like, it just blew my mind of like, okay, like sales is not what you think it is. It's not about, yeah, we all want to collect the bag and have fun, but it's about consistency, like confidence, certainty, asking questions, listening, and all these other good things. So I didn't have one shred of doubt, man. Like, I knew that's exactly what I wanted. I was put on this planet to do, and I was determined to make it to a high level. And I'm still always working on my craft, even to this day, now that I'm an entrepreneur.
So I know, because I've spoken to you before, that this comes out in your conversations. This is part of your energy. This is part of who you are, that you're really trying to help people solve problems. And yes, the sales, making the money is important. That's not your primary motivator for talking to people. And this really sets you apart from most sales folks. So one of the things that you've been doing is helping companies recruit and build sales teams. How do you go about interviewing and kind of filtering out the people that have your drive? How do you sense that?
Man, sometimes you can, I would say like the BS meter it filters 60%, but you always have, sales guys are very persuasive, right? Or even like smooth talkers. So like you
Right.
can mask things in the first thing, but it's all about you'll really know when it based upon role playing, right? So like sometimes like I throw people off in towards the end of interviews, and I ask questions like, so if a client tells you no, what do you like? How do you respond to that? And if here's a kicker, man, and I love this. This is some true game. This is some game here. If they drop into instant role play mode, like their tone changes, their pace, and like they're just that's when I know I'm like, okay, this guy, and then obviously what he says. And if he asks me a question, I'm like, okay, this guy understands like the mental mind, because you can't fake that doing and stay in the game a long period of time and produce results as fast as you need to as you get recruited, right? As you get onboarded. But if I get a guy who tries to explain things to me very literal, then it's like, I don't know if this guy actually gets it, right? If that makes sense. It's kind of like my initial screener. Then obviously, after that, it's just based upon how the integration is to the company and, the expectations and things like that. So it's just based upon their models.
What are some things that you have found super helpful? You got multi-millions of sales going pretty quick in your career, which is very impressive. And you say being, you weren't working for the top 1, 2, or even the top 5 in the market you were in. What do you think were the primary things that enabled you? Was it people buying from you and then telling their friends? Was a lot of word of mouth? Was it your own cold calling, or what were your big hitters that really helped you to expand to that level?
Man, I think this is so applicable. It doesn't matter where you are in terms of like your career. Like, you should always be doing some form of outbound and have word of mouth. But what I did was a lot of outbound, man. Like, I'm talking about 30, 40 calls out on top of other things. So I was actually learning other like functions in the business as well, like operations, finance, marketing, things like that, and sales, so I can understand the business holistically. But I consistently made calls to other businesses, and I made RFPs. Like, I was shooting as many shots on goal, and my goal was like, yo, like, I'm not going to get like $1 million deal being fresh out of college in an industry I don't know anything about. And I was realistic with that, but I'm like, yo, but I can get this $1,000 order, over deliver, give so much value, help them, and then expand into more purchasing power. So like, I think it's very Jedi. It's like, yo, like, hey, ask for something small, get the client used to buying from you, doing business, show that you're not going to put their career on the line, because they're also making decisions not based also on the company, but is this person going to help my career or hurt my career possibly, right? It's just basic human nature. So I just start off with small wins. Like, hey, can I help get small wins, build a relationship, do lunch and learns. I got really, so that helped me initially. I will say the first million, that compounded the relationships into bigger and bigger orders. What really set this apart, which I'm doing right now in entrepreneurship, that I'm like addicted to, which Mike, you're probably a testament of this too. I found out community and networking and helping other people get paid, get you paid, because the law of reciprocity. So like, man, I probably got $1 million in sale. Like, I don't keep track. I'm just like into it. I was like, man, I feel like I got some deals handed to me because I knew the market. I know who was with who and doing business with who. Because if you've been in the market enough and you've seen enough, like, RFPs, or, you understand your market, your region pretty well, like who's with who, and you know who to partner with. And sometimes you could partner with people who serve the same client, but you guys offer two different things, right? So like group economics. So I think those two things compound, and those, I mean, it can just keep going, man. And like, once you have that skill down of like knowing like how to get small wins and also how to network and do group economics with other people, then like, man, the sky's the limit on whatever you're selling.
I love it. I first heard that idea in an ancient movie, Miracle on 34th Street. This movie came out in the 40s, I think. My parents made me watch it as a kid. But there's this great scene in there where the guy that William Macy, that started Macy's department store, tells his sales team, I want you guys to go down, and if we don't have something, I want our salespeople to tell the customer where they can go get it. And as a kid, that just triggered in my brain. It's like, you know what? That's the same concept you're describing. How many times, I know a lot of our show's listeners do this too. How many times do we say, well, I don't really make that widget that so-and-so needs, but I know who does. Let me get them connected. And then all of a sudden, month or two, 3 months later, you get a phone call. It's like, we need what you do, Mike. We need what you do, Desmond, because we're at that point now. It's like, you never know. It's good to know who's with who, and that's where it starts. But you never know where those other people are going to take things.
Oh man, exactly. Like at the end of the day, you just want to be known as a person of value. Yeah. So that doesn't matter what, like, I love when people reach out to me. Like it doesn't matter if they need help with sales or whatever, like, or recruiting. It's like, hey man, like, hey, can you help solve this problem that I have? It's like, sure, if I have the bandwidth and the ability and the network and the resources, I'm going to help that person out. Right? Unattached if they do business with me or refer me business or not, because I'm playing the abundance game. I'm doing this with as many people as I humanly possibly can. And it's all going to shake out at the end because I'm in this game for a long time. Right. So like the abundance, man, it's sick.
Dude, you're like the Steve Jobs of sales, man. You're changing the industry.
I'm just playing a different game, man. I'm like, it's like,
yes.
Yeah, it's a different game. But you still got to be a little savage in terms of like converting, right? Like when you got the right opportunities. But in terms of the big scheme of things, like I want whales and I want long-standing relationships and I want to build a brand around being a person of value, not just like a guy who transacts dollars and cents. And I think every sales team should be building every person on the sales team should be building their own personal brand, because that all that does is help compound and make the business more valuable, whatever they're offering more valuable. Because what does everyone do when they go buy something? Sometimes they go look the guy up before you send this guy a $100,000 order or $10,000 order or even $1,000 order. You're gonna go look him up on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter. Like, what does this guy represent, right? So yeah, man, and that helps you get referrals as well, like we just talked about. So yeah, I'm big on like things that a lot of people in sales don't talk about, which are those two things, man: abundance and personal branding.
And that brings me to another question. Why do you think that is? Think of the classic car dealer or the classic salesman, sales lady in a furniture showroom or wherever. Why do you think there's this kind of desperation mindset with so many salespeople versus the abundance mindset? What is it that drives that? Is it really fear? Or is it something else?
I mean, I think it's a lot to do with like your management style. What is your training and culture within the company? Those are three really big things. And then I would have to say, um, like in terms of I'll get more into the training. So is your company like creating this incubation for like in training that's not just like follow the script training? Yes, you got to understand like the products, have certainty, have confidence, understand the processes, how to onboard clients, what the feature benefits. Of course, those things are like easy. But I think where people come up short, it's almost like they're at the 5 yard line where it's like, yo, you should be like, hey, how can your sales team use your products? So for an example, if you're a SaaS company that does I don't know, let's use an example. You do landing pages and email marketing. Then your sales team should build their own landing page and email marketing as a hobby so that they get hands on the products and then maybe build their own like whatever, like they could be football, food, whatever that is. But it's like getting like integrated with that thing and then using it and getting creative, right? Because it helps with integration and creating uncertainty. So yeah, man. I think a lot of it's dealing with like some companies just like they fall into the old way of like, hey, we're gonna do script training. Like that's not enough in this day and age. Like, you got to get creative. Yeah.
Scripts are always a good exercise for people learning to do sales and communication. It's a tool, but my gosh, at some point you need to get rid of that crutch and be who you are.
Yeah, you got to make it fun, man. You got to make it fun and like get their hands with the products. Like that's probably my biggest piece of advice to companies out there is like your sales guys should know like firsthand what the product is. Like feel it, get messy with it, like get frustrated with it, be happy with it, right? Because then they can have those more authentic conversations and have more fun and have better retention, right? Because most people leave because of management and lack of certainty in the company, right? That's usually where the turnover comes from.
Yeah, and that's a very professional and high class way of saying it. It's the old, they make us feel like mushrooms. They keep us in the dark and feed us bull.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how companies lose really good people. It's like, no, you hire people because of their brain power and their desire to contribute. The training's on you as management it's on us as management to get them trained correctly. But you can kill someone's driver real fast by not communicating well.
Exactly. And we just came from a massive bull market, man, where
yes,
everything was printing money and everyone's just trying to grow as fast as possible for the next valuation, or at least in the tech space, right? And so like, they're just onboarding guys and just churning, right? Like, even in maybe not properly training low performers or cutting low performers, right? I mean, I believe in cutting the bottom 10% every month, to be perfectly honest, if you're growing fast, because energy is everything. And if everyone knows that this guy is not producing, then it brings the morale of the whole team down, right? I mean, I'm a capitalist, man, but so it's going to be an interesting next 2 years, Mike. Like we're going to see who can really sell, right? We're going to see what businesses are real and which ones are just shiny toys.
Yeah, it really cracks me up, the old Warren Buffett quote that he's probably been giving this quote for 60 years now. But it was relative to the kind of cycle we just seen where the Fed was giving a lot of easy money, interest rates are low. Companies were borrowing money that in a higher interest environment, those companies would not have been borrowing that much money because they really shouldn't have been. It was just very attractive to do so. And they're expanding. All of a sudden, guess what? Now there's a crash. But Buffett said, that rising tide lifts all boats. We know that. But it's only when the tide goes out you can tell who's been swimming naked.
Exactly.
But which companies really had a need for the money they were borrowing and really deployed that cash correctly versus which ones just bought stuff because they could. And, Buffett always puts things very simple to understand language.
Yeah, he's a savage, man. I love Buffett. He's probably the GOAT.
So tell us about OEM.
Yeah, so I have one company called Oem Sales Recruiting. It's just something that I used to be in the manufacturing space, selling to manufacturers, oil and gas and renewables. So I know that career path pretty well, and I know what's in the head of most sales guys that are interns slash, trainees to inside guys and outside guys and project managers. Like I've been in that space. So I'm able to have really good conversations and recruit pretty effectively because I can speak their lingo. So yeah, I try to hook them up with Fortune 1000 manufacturing companies. So they might be regional sales guys, outside guys, inside guys. Just really trying to find the right person so they can hire once. And then I have my other company is called CXO Republic, and that's more of a full service sales agency, not a marketing agency. Sales. I mean, we have marketers we partner with, but we're all about generating revenue and creating demand generation and strategic partnerships, and making money over the long term, and not experimenting, burning money. So that's that other business.
So what is your answer to a early stage company founder that is at the point where they probably past the point where they needed to hire a sales team and they're just overwhelmed? And the question, I assume the question comes up fairly often in your business of a person asking, what are your results? Or how to, essentially they want to know how you can help them as CXO. Now, of course, I already know, but for the audience, what do you say to people like that?
Like who's like in their early, like first stage, like they have pretty much like usually they probably have a plateau of revenue. So they're stuck at a certain level and they're reaching another level, trying to hit another level.
They've already borrowed from mom and their dog and their cat and everybody else.
That's our dream client, man. I prefer 90%. Like I've probably turned down business, like 5 or 6 clients in the last 30 days who were not at a certain level because it was going to be so much work to like get them to a place to do like actual like business that's pretty profitable. I try to avoid some cost fallacy or getting into bad deals. I turned down a $2 million deal recently because over $16,000, right? But what I'll tell those guys is, hey, like let's make more money from existing clients first, because usually there's a ton of untapped LTV in most cases that I notice. Like for instance, I had a client, she was business 15 years. They were stuck at a certain revenue point. We came in, we built an offer to sell to existing clients and the existing deal flow. Like they already have a customer acquisition channel, and she went from doing a $1,000 job with them to a $30,000 job. And like that, like no objection. It was almost like, dang, did we not charge enough money? Right? Because we didn't get any objections, right? So did the same thing again with a $40,000 deal. And we didn't even finish building it. We just sold it first. Like it's like, hey, would someone give us money for this? And then we finished building it out, and they, got delivered their services, and we're middle scaling that. So I really love that. I really love boosting LTVs. And then the second thing I love doing is creating secondary channels based upon evidence of what works, right? So if you're doing paid traffic, I mean, we all know paid traffic doesn't, last forever, but how well are your clients referring you to other people, right? Like, hey, how can we create content or create a strategy around word of mouth? And how can we generate that? Like, hey, do you have a podcast? Do we need to partner with some studios and agencies that we work with so that maybe you can create demand content over time and maybe build an authority, right? So it's just really all about what their certain channel is right now. And we'll just figure out based upon what works, what is the path to get to the next level, what compounds, because that's what we need to find, a compounder, not a straight line will only get you a certain, like maybe a step, but we're looking for a compounder. Like what activity or what strategy can we use to compound outside of extending LTV, because that can also compound over time with new channels. So that's what I would say, man. So you want to work with me, saleschallenge.xyz. That's where we're at. We're actually doing a sales challenge here pretty soon. We're going to evergreen it, where it's like get 21 sales in 21 days for like salespeople or entrepreneurs, because I was farming my own sales guys. So I trained some of my own sales guys and placed with entrepreneurs, like who, guys who need some more TLC. And I was like, man, like I'm noticing a lot of the clients I'm attracting, obviously I'm getting some good ones, but some of them just like, yo, you guys need to get to a certain level. So I just created a free challenge for them. just can get them some momentum and teach them how to network with other people and get strategic partnerships and stuff. So that's what I would say, man. Straight up.
I would say anybody that doesn't take you up on that is just missing the boat, man. That is a really cool offer. So what kind of lessons would you say to people that are in their early stage company, particularly those that are in their second or third company? So at that point, you have enough accumulated wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Quotation. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are lessons that you've learned that you can share with the old folks?
Well, I mean, I felt like the thing that I would like the first thing which I'm even preaching to myself to stay disciplined on is just like cash management, man, like cash flow, right? Like it has a lot to do with sales. It has a lot to do with sales because, I've been, you're like, man, you just pay for growth when you've been used to paying for growth and you need growth depending on like what you're telling board members or like morale within the company. Because if you have a hiring freeze and then your revenue starts growing, then people start to get jittery feet within the company, right? So like It's easy to like, let's pay for sales even if we're losing money because we want to keep the culture, right? So I think just having cash flow discipline and then just at this point just being a strong leader and doubling down on training your people, like you're a winner, like your best people, like, hey, how can we continue to compound and stay true to that? I mean, I think that's the killer, man. And just like be the last one standing, because there's going to be entrepreneurs and business owners or competitors are going to do the opposite and they're not going to make it to the end of the road. So
we all seen that too many times.
Yeah. So just stay in the game. Like at this point, it's just like outlast everyone else and then know where to, when you put $1 in, do we get $2 out, right? Or $1.50 out, whatever, right? We're printing money from our new acquisition channel. So that will be my thing. And then the last thing I will say is their personal brand. So get yourself out there and have some authority in whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're SaaS, sell chocolate at a candy store, whatever, you're a lawyer. I think building a personal brand, this is the perfect time to do it because, we're going to probably into a recession for the next couple of years. So I think that during this recession, you should be building a personal brand. So when things start pumping again, you're already building off of a solid foundation if you don't have one already right now.
That's very well spoken, sir. All right. And the best way for people to get a hold of you?
You can always find me on LinkedIn, Desmond Dixon, but you can always just check out saleschallenge.xyz.
XYZ.
Yep. I'll give it. Yep. So I'm always going to have challenges on there because I'm all about abundance and helping people out. So you can find me there as well.
And we'll have those links down below for you folks in the audience. I recommend everybody contact Desmond, superior networker, and, network with the man. He knows a lot of good stuff and he's accomplished quite a lot at a very young age. So I won't squill on him, but I got to tell you, he's younger than you probably think he is. All right. Thank you for being here, Desmond.
All right. Thanks, Mike. This was fun, man.